All right. Hey, everybody. I'm back. I haven't live streamed in a while. Um, things got busy. I also got burned out. So, for those who don't know, Drupal 10 released mid December ish. But between mid July until December, I was doing maintenance on phpstan-drupal and possibly Drupal Rector. And then on the other hand, I was also doing work stuff. My team at Acquia monitored about 180 different contrib modules and tried to do porting when we could, doing review, helping make sure that there was no major versions that were impossible to upgrade from between you're on your Drupal 9 site, try to get to Drupal 10. And that just completely burned me out and killed my desire to work on phpstan-drupal at all. But things have recovered. Drupal 10's a success. So it's like the ecosystem, the fact that we had like the most modules ready. So it's time to dust this project off and take care of some issues, because it's also exciting to see there's been a few contributors popping up. So that makes it a lot easier to maintain and work on when other people are helping find bugs, especially around entity query access, which has been one of the thorniest issues. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into these. We've got three that are related, and this one wasn't blue, so I think I was working on that. Oh, and thanks about the book. So it is a split authorship. I got through about the first X amount of chapters and then had some assistance from others, because I just ran out of time. Trying to do a book the third time with 3 kids and a full-time job is just not as easy as the first time when you have 1 kid. Yeah. All right. So a few of these pull requests have come in. Oh, this is not the one that I reviewed. So we have these false checks, a lot of false negatives on entity query access. This was a change done in Drupal 9 and enforced in Drupal 10, where whenever you perform an entity query, before it was just automatically with entity access on. So that way, if you had unpublished content, users wouldn't get values back in the query unless they had the view unpublished content permission. I guess this was too magical, and in Drupal 10, it was forced to be an explicit decision. And it's kind of like a developer experience thing. It's nice having it auto applied, but some people don't know you can turn it off, and then they think they have bugs or the code's not working as they thought. So phpstan-drupal does detections for it. It's just that it didn't always work right, and that's because you can write code hundreds of different ways. So there have been some pull requests that came in. This one's passing 494, 474. I thought I had eyes on these, but I guess not. Or maybe I merged something and these are the follow-ups. Okay. So I didn't completely triage it beforehand. So let's go with, what's the old newest? 495. We'll start with 495. This is the newest. False negative access checks and failure with entity queries. Let's look at this issue. Almost all problems with access check queries are gone with 476. Yep, merged that while working on a few escapees. All right, so let's check out these. I gotta mute my watch notifications. All right, so anyway, it looks like in a way that if one job fails, the others are canceled. No failures on these. Edit a fix. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to open up this static entity query return type extension. And one reason it's tricky is we have all this code in phpstan-drupal that says, hey, phpstan, when you encounter this, it's like under the hood a different type. Like it's still this class, but we're going to treat it differently. So like here, when you call Drupal entity query via the global service container or accessor, whatever we want to call it. Whenever you call entity query, we check what the entity type is and try to figure out what kind of entity storage you have. What was previously happening, we had a to-do, determine what types are and resolve the entity name. And this happened where the type wasn't a constant string. It could have been anything else. It could have been a variable. So this code says, regardless of the type, return that's an entity query, if var type. So there's the data fixtures, and here we go. That would be a perfect case where it's a variable. We could use a scope resolver, I think, to find out what this value is. But since it's passed in as a parameter that's a string, it wouldn't know. So this seems like the proper fix. And honestly, oh, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. So we got the test. When did this last run? 18 test successful. 3 weeks ago. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and merge it as is. And we'll just see what happens afterwards. Shorten this. Sure, I say. Thanks. Where is Bogey from? The Netherlands. Okay, wonder what agency. It's always great having people that are popping in and helping out. So, all right, we've got that one. I'm going to go ahead and update the branch here. So 474. All right, 744, follow up to 454. The following code is resulting in PHP stand error. Get storage, get aggregate query, access type true. So I'm going to guess that we don't have any calls for get aggregate query. Oh, I didn't even think about that. All right, so this refreshed, and luckily we've got lots of test coverage. So that's the one huge part too, was figuring out how to get this all testable, because with Drupal 10, phpstan-drupal is a dev dependency. So I think that's one reason that also saw an uptick of contributors, which is great because Drupal core is using it. So Drupal core can hit failures or improvements as we're doing this development. So we had one failure here, but let's just see. So this now supports get query, get aggregate query. Okay. But is that going to be good enough? Yeah, it should. So if we look at, let's pop into Drupal. I have my test fixtures here. So if we go to lib, Drupal, core, I believe it's an entity, then the query namespace, condition, aggregate. Oh, wrong button. Let's do entity. No. Query, SQL, query aggregate. Here we go. I want to compare query aggregate and query, which looks like it extends query. Okay, and just ensures that it does add aggregate. Yeah. Okay, so this should be, it should be fine returning the same types. That's my one concern is it okay in our get query return type to do the same? Why is this pop out so huge? There we go. So here, so we check if it's get query, we return the type, which I were to, let's do a get pull. And let's check out this PR that's failing. All right, so we got one failing test, two, multiple. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and check out this PR locally. I'm going to do GitHub PR checkout because that's the fastest way. If you don't use the GitHub CLI, I highly recommend it because it makes it a lot easier to check out pull requests that come from forks. There are, otherwise you have to add it as remote manually and check out the branch. This is great because it checks out the pull request head. So if I push, I can just hit push and it tracks automatically. Or I'm pretty sure if I were to open, access token's gone. But if you have VS Code or PHP Storm, there is like the pull request UI. I just like the command line a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to check this out and see where the failures are. Given that it's failing across the board, I feel like it's... Oh, never mind. Not what I thought. Never used the GitHub CLI. Oh, I love it. So even here, if I did GitHub PR list, so there are things to be desired. Like I can do PR list and it shows the PRs, but there's no way to like use the arrow keys to say, oh, I want to select this one and do something with it. But what I do at work a lot of times, so I use PR status to see like what PRs are passing or not. Again, it'd be great if it listed and had some way to prompt, do you want to do something with one of these? But let's say there's one reason I was using it is we had a project that was under active development and conflicting. And I think it's -C. So if you do -C, it'll show if there are any merge conflicts. Because right, you could have checks passing, but there's merge conflicts. So this gives a quick way to say, all right, what are all the active PRs? Oh, this one's got a merge conflict. I can open it and choose to rebase it. As far as I know, there isn't a command to do that. I know the GitHub UI has an update button, but from what I've seen, there isn't a way to do that from the command line, like saying, hey, it's out of sync, go update it. I've not tried GitHub Copilot yet, mostly because for a while I wasn't doing any coding on my personal laptop besides this. And not really a lot of boilerplate stuff. If I did more Go and JavaScript, I'd find use in it, but I'm writing a lot of like Drupal PHP that I'm not sure. And any like when I had to do a client work that was Laravel and Vue, that thing was so snowflake that I'm not sure. Like I'm sure it would have provided some benefit. And I've seen videos and like, yeah, it's great. It's like going to Chat GPT and saying, hey, I need code that does this. That's where I could see it being useful. But honestly, I found Chat GPT to be better for that boilerplate code than what I've seen out of GitHub Copilot. Such as I was writing a Kubernetes service and I didn't feel like going on the internet and searching or looking at some old code. So I said, hey, I need to build a Kubernetes manifest that has this service, a deployment, an ingress, and something else. And it gave me about like 70% correct information. And that was enough to get started, which I'm assuming would be about the same with GitHub Copilot. Maybe GitHub Copilot would be better because it actually is trained on source code, but you can't ask it what you want. You have to start typing it to know what you want. Or maybe there is like the comment, I should probably try it out instead of being so dead set on it. Maybe that should be a live stream of writing a code base using ChatGPT or Copilot. I'm going to steal that idea. So I'll try that one time and I'll see how it goes. But no, I'm not signed up for it. I should. But I think other AI tools might be better. It's depending on your level. Actually, I'm going to stay on this for a second. So right now at Aqua, I'm a principal engineer, which mileage may vary what people say about that, but essentially I'm in more of a like not management leadership, but leadership role. Like when you move higher up the tier, you go into more leadership to mentor other developers, think of a bigger picture. And I think Chat GPT would get me further because I have less concrete questions. There are approaches and concepts. Where if you're junior and basically everything you're doing is boilerplate code because you're doing new projects, like if you're a marketing firm, then I think GitHub Copilot would probably make a better usage of your day. So that'd be an interesting concept. Like Copilot helps people who are like in the dirt all the time, doing like junior work and mid-level work, just things that are kind of redundant and things you do often, where ChatGPT and other AI code tools could be better for like the upper level where you're doing more like grandeur thinking of the overarching process, or saying, I know what we need. I don't want to find the final solution. Here's what it should kind of look like. Hand it off to a junior, mid, senior, whatever, that then refines it. So I think you could use both tools in various ways. All right. Yeah. Hope that answers your questions. Both Copilot and ChatGPT are GPT-3. Okay. So behind the scenes, GitHub Copilot is GPT, or GitHub Copilot. I guess I can just Google it. Correct. Oh, well, that makes sense then. All right. So if it's the same behind the hood, then it's all about the approach. Okay. So yeah, GitHub Copilot, you start writing code to get code. Chat GPT, you can start making architectural level conversations and get back feedback. Like I've done that for, blog posts coming up with like, oh, this is a concept. Well, let's make sure I explain the concept right. And you can converse to break down technical pieces where Copilot can't do that. But I have found it as a good jumping board. Maybe Copilot would serve the same purpose. Um, it might also just be how you think. Like I might not be one to just start writing. Um, oh yeah, it lies bad. Like my Kubernetes had like something wrong in it, but like I knew it because I have done Kubernetes stuff, but it had been about a year. So like I saw it and I was like, that doesn't look right. So that's where Copilot, if you're doing redundant tasks and you are in like a more junior level, or there's like some kind of bootstrapping process you always have to do. But when you move up to a higher level and you need to like explain concepts or think of an overall picture, I could see having a conversation with an AI bot is a lot more productive. But I've never tried Copilot. I am remembering somebody like wrote a code comment and GitHub Copilot like generated the code off of the comment. So I could be completely baseless there. Like maybe it is a single tool and I've been doing the wrong thing. Um, so it will be interesting to try out. I'm going to make a note to schedule a live stream to do that. So live stream Copilot and GPT and kind of like why I would use each one differently. All right, so we got a failing test on 474, which is what I have checked out locally around entity parameter type hint rule test. I have this open. I actually don't know what this does. Expected type bool. Oh. Wait a second. How, why, what? Why wasn't this failing beforehand then? Okay, so this just receives all. Yeah, why wouldn't this break? That means head's broken, I bet. So I should have ran that update button. If I look here, yep, everything broke because of this. All right, we'll fix that. So what are the new constructors? Let's see. So check missing iterable, check generic class. I'm guessing that I'm just going to set this to be true. I'll run the test. Oh, I can clear the broker. Oh, you gotta rerun it. I really want to one day figure out that bug. It's like there's some cache, and when it tries to run the test, it dies and has to rerun. Argument 5 of sklip. Oh. There we go. Is that actually required? It sure is. All right, let's rerun it. And that should be good. Awesome. X. Not really relevant to this pull request, so I could put it somewhere else, but I'm just going to do it here. So I'm just going to do git push. So there's when I say git GitHub CLI, check out the PR. I just have to do git push, and then it pushes it to that reference head, or it maps it somehow. which makes life a lot easier when you're an open source maintainer on GitHub. So that will be one thing I say. I know people gave Drupal a lot of crap because we use patches all the time and we're just now getting merge requests done. But collaboration on GitHub stinks because it's not very collaborative. You one person opens a pull request and you can't have multiple collaborators on it or like give access to. When they finally allowed maintainers to push to pull requests was huge because a lot of times maintainers got that little bit they want to do before they merge it. But the fact that at least Drupal's like doing issue forks and that way multiple people can collaborate on a merge request is huge. Why isn't this running? Or is it? Oh, that's why it had the thing behind it, because we need it for the test. So before I push, let's actually verify it's passing. So I think that's the one error. Yep. Oh, it's 2. Wait. Or maybe, okay, so it was up here. Oh, neither of them are. Okay. That'd be one nice thing if this API rule didn't run on tests. Like if there was some way to say, yes, that's fine to use things that aren't backwards compatible in your test when you're an extension. Do git commit AV. Allow ignore non-API covered warning in test. Is ChatGPT Copilot the exact same neural model or just using the same framework? That's a good question. And I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably the. Well, if it's licensed, yeah. If it's licensed from OpenAPI, then it's going to be the same besides whatever they feed in. And this is when it gets over my head. But I'm going to put that for a question to figure out. Hey, there. Thank you so much for your contributions. It's been a huge. It's always nice to see because PHP Stan. It was always such a It felt so odd, like no one was really contributing or seemed so very like specific. I don't know the right way to put it, but it's so great seeing people now contribute code to phpstan-drupal and adopting it and able to contribute this part. So what I'm looking for, oh yeah, abstract syntax trees. Like having to deal with like an abstract syntax tree and figuring things out. Just always was pretty daunting. So I love seeing these come in. All right. So we'll just get this should pass then, and this makes sense to do. So just gotta wait for these checks to finish, and then we'll move on to the 498. Okay, so move on to the next. Nice. Yeah, there's so many times it's saved me from pushing bugs. Um I know people have a lot of grief, especially around this one issue. Um oh, like in Drupal hooks, basically all you need to do is say it's a void, but there's other like if you ignore this hook, there could be like incompatible types here. Um it's definitely, there's been some things have been a argumentative usage with phpstan and Drupal, but just fixing the iterables or trying to at least define them as best as you can uncovers so many bugs. Let's see. All right. Why is this one taking so long? Okay, there we go. All right, this should wrap up soon. I'll merge it. What I should do is allow auto merge. So now, watch, it's going to be done. Oh, wait, why is it not showing? Oh, because I don't have any required access checks. So why don't I do that? Let's go ahead and I'm going to set this up so I can have auto merge enabled. Always suggest allow. Oh, wait. Merge requires some met. Let's see if this will update now. Oh, that's a bot. That's not fun. How do I? There we go. Well, I feel special. I got my first spam message in my channel. All right, so I'm going to merge this pull request. And boom. So that'll head back to green. And let me move on to the next items. So let's see. Let's do branches. Add a protection rule. Working on code that uses field item get entity, which core types as return an entity interface, but it can also return null. Yeah, you know what? I think we should type hint that, because why would it ever return null? And I think I opened an issue on. Wait, was it an issue for that? No, I did create item. This is what I did. Hey, thanks for joining in. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this. Can let's do. Actually, whoa, I can't type. Actually, return null, not always entity interface. Let's stub this and fix it. So one thing that can be done, because PHP docs aren't always right, so phpstan gives you a way to provide overrides via stubs, and we have a bunch. So inside stubs, actually, real quick, let me link that issue into the chat in case anybody wants to follow it. But if I go back, so inside stubs, we go here, and this is how a lot of entity stuff was overridden and fixed. Why am I opening GitHub when I have the code available? But so here it helps define like some of the traversable stuff. Let me actually open it locally so that way it's a little bit easier to view. Let's shrink this back down. So we go to Drupal, like file plugin, file items. Like here, it makes sure that it documents the property that's available via type data. So what we could do is have core, no, field item base or whatever plugin, whatever it comes into here. That's not it. Like email item property value, it would say we would override get item and have get item say that it returns a nullable entity interface, and that can be tested too. So let's go to main. Oh yeah, I want to real quick fix this up or allow an auto merge. So let's do require status checks. Let's do. I'm not setting this up now. Never mind. Auto merge would be great, but I don't have. I have to then set up required statuses, not statuses, workflows. All right, so this should be green, or head should be green-ish now in the process of. So let's check this one out. Test case for 496. Almost all problems are. All right, test case is 4. So these are failing. Let's resolve this in the UI. No, let's not accept both. I'm actually going to check this out locally and let phpstorm run its merge magic. So I'll get checkout main, get pull, get PR checkout, not create. So let's check out 497. And then I'm going to go search for main and merge. Let's do merge main into. Hopefully it just works. So changes from 496. This is in main. And this is here. And then there we go. So let's push that back up. Boom. So there. One of the reasons I love all the IntelliJ or the JetBrains IDEs built on IntelliJ is the merging tool. For SQL viewing, like my databases, phpstorm directly. I'll use DataGrip to access my database. And if you use DDEV for local development, you can actually use the DDEV plugin and it automatically registers the database for you. Or like browsing SQLite files. I do all that. Oh yeah. So it's built in as part of like the IntelliJ features. So you can open the database tab. You can add all sources. Like I have a project that I have it configured to the AWS RDS or the local DDEV DB. When doing testing, like if I'm running like a Drupal test and I'm using SQLite, I can just double click on the SQLite file and it opens up here so you can browse all the database data. It's a huge time saver. Let's well, yeah, I'm gonna reload this page. So it sounds like that would be a cool. I should do a blog post or video on that. So phpstorm db UI. I think I might have. Hold on. I should get the search back on my own website so I don't have to always do this. But let's see. No, just a different one. Wait, did I not? What did I do? 497. Oh, I pushed with phpstorm. Dang it. So when I brought up about being able to push, well, phpstorm doesn't like it. So it reads your actual remotes, and in this case, I just pushed a copy of that branch to origin. So let's git push origin 496. I want to delete that. I want to do GitHub git push, which okay. So it messed things up a little bit. When I always forget that with phpstorm, don't push PR branches via the UI, do it via the command line, and then things just work. All right, I didn't actually look at this code yet. Test cases for 496. Almost all are gone with while working on a few escapees. One is a false negative, failure in entity queries. Provide a test case in the attached PR. Okay, so false negative on non-chained entity queries. Okay, so something's failing. Let's open, double click, and just I realize I use keyboard shortcuts sometimes. I don't explain them. So double tapping shift opens this finder. I don't know what they call it actually. So you can paste in a path or a class name and find it. So right here, it brought up the file, but even if I were to type in the class name, it's going to show me accessing the class, the path. Oh, and look at this. I could run it. So if I do enter, it'll debug it. If I do shift enter, it'll run. Hey, look at that. So I did shift enter and it ran the test for me just from that little finder. Oh, hey, Corny. All right. Two tests are identical. Yeah. All right. So this is failing. And this is the test cases, which is explained. All right. Let's figure out how to fix this. So I already merged in main. Let's open the test. Oh, shoot. Okay. No. Double tap. Go back up and open the file. No, I don't want to debug. Stop it. So let's run this again. Or actually, hold on. One cool thing that got updated too with the most recent PHP Storm, and has got me all kinds of excited. So let's go to our one test case here. So before in PHP Storm, you could only click on the class to run it or the test itself. And they've added a new feature where if you have a data provider and a bunch of fixtures, you can actually run that one specific test provider. So that's something I should write about too. So PHP Storm, run specific data set. One reason I'm writing these down too is I'm trying to get back on my blog and do like a weekly cadence of doing blog posts. So all these little things I want to try to capture and actually give them a little bit more love and light. Basically copy paste other people's code skills. Yeah, this one will be interesting. So I'm going to run this specific test that failed. And we're going to dive in it. So it's getting entity query, the entity access check. Come here. It's not even acknowledging this. All right. So we've got it run. Or rather, I guess I could have right-clicked and done debug too. But let's go get set. And the hard part with this is now it comes down to, do you know how this code works? And being the maintainer and an author a lot of it, I do. So this would be like a really hard issue for someone to jump into. And that's why I like doing these live streams, because if anybody is curious, they can kind of see and learn how to, one, how I debug projects on a whole. But two, if they want to contribute, they can also learn some of the inner workings. When doing non-chaining. Yeah, there's actually a shoot. Let's see if also one thing in a lot of search, if you do command enter, it always opens it in a new tab. So let's okay, here it is. I think this is the issue. Yeah, which are too much for first. Yeah, phpstan is incredibly difficult. From when I first tried to do, does nifty things, but chain. Okay, chain. Does nifty things which are too much for. Yeah, nifty things to sort out. The chaining. Yeah, like the phpstan code base blows my mind away, and it's one that it's not. It's like, if you keep working on it, you know it. But I look at that code base in spurts, and every 6 months it becomes increasingly more complex to figure out. Which is fair because that is what it's doing. All right, so I think this sounds familiar with the issues around non-chained methods. So entity query dynamic return exception, we check for various instances. If we fail, we could try what PHP doctrine does while using a while loop to find the root. I think this is for extreme chaining. Object type. Okay, so this might not be the same. I'm actually going to comment. Sounds like the opposite problem was open for where extreme chaining things broke, I think. All right, so that was it. Before there was something about a lot of chaining, we lost track, and this was actually fixed by improving the. This might actually be fixed because it was fixed with the cache describer, I believe. So if count, so here we check for various instances. That's so descriptive, Matt. I did such a good job in the past of describing this and linking it to anything else. This, oh, entity query count. That's it. So it had to do with a lot of this chaining. I've clarified issue 501 above. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Dude, that's something different. So let's dive in and start debugging this. So it breaks down where? So entity query. So we got to look at that static. Where is it? Return type extension. Entity access. Here we go. Drupal static. Entity query access. Blah. Entity query return type. All this means is when you call the Drupal class and then the method is entity query, as is done here, this hooks into phpstan to return a custom type. So let's debug this and see where we can get. Oh boy. I also have not. There we go. I was gonna say I haven't tried this in a while, so hopefully everything still works, but it does. All right, so we're in our scope. Let's just the mutating scope, namespace, bug 496 example. Here we are. So we're in this method here. We've got our method call on Drupal entity query. And if we look at our attribute, start line is 12. So we are right here and trying to instruct phpstan what is the true type, like in the background of query. And as we stated, it's generically a entity query interface, but we need to know if it's a generic entity query or if it's one for a content entity or a config entity, because they do different things. So args, the type. So let's get it gets the type, which is constant string, and is node, which this is the merge we just made that falls back. So in this, because it's a string, we have the entity type ID of node, and this gets the entity type from, we have an entity data repository. So each entity type has its own entity class, storage, etc. This ensures that phpstan can analyze the code and treat those classes the same way if it was Drupal running at runtime. So entity storage type. There we go. Entity storage type, we got content entity storage type, class name, Drupal node storage. So we go there. So it now returns this content entity type. And I want to just check something real quick with accessCheck. So this was the big fix that was needed. With entity query type, and if it is with the accessCheck, I want to keep my eye on this. Because I'm seeing anytime that there are weird issues, it's something around the cache that phpstan has. So debug, let's go back. So we're in the scope. So the resolve type is content entity query. Resolve types, it adds to the array. It's greater than 0, so it returns a union of the resolved types. And return type, yep. We get call type. So now, what do we have in here? What's type? Content entity query type. Traverses the type. So this is where now it should be in the key. So the key is entity query node. This is where key, or how does it derive the key? Get node key from the node. Attribute name, start file position, key. So it just prints it. So it shouldn't be because it has the same text. So we get the resolve type. I'm going to stop this actually. And so we get the return type here. So execute. And let's check something else. So with or without, these are the custom types. Entity storage, here we go. No. Get query. So this does if you call get query on this. Oh, I just thought of something unrelated, related-ish. Where'd it go? Well, first off, access. Where's the entity access controller? That's entity access. accessCheck. No, that's not it. Come on. So return type, var type. Where does it? Here we go. So this is what we need to check. And this didn't get hit yet. So why don't I debug it? Because it is either what I think is happening. Oh man. I bet what it is that I'm actually going to stop it. So we have execute. And I know we have one that listens on execute as well. So let's just do get entity query. We know this is fine. We know that we're getting back an entity query type. So get type from method called accessCheck. Where is execute? Okay, we got a breakpoint there too. So what I believe is happening is we have the right query. We have it without an accessCheck, so it returns content entity query type without accessCheck, whichever. But condition, this resets it, I bet, because no, it shouldn't though, because it should be the same object. It's not saying query equals, but I have a feeling it's this method call, which is screwing things up. So one thing we can do is I'm just going to add something here. Default return type, var type. Yeah, so we're just going to do a cutoff here if method name is equal to condition return default return type. We don't want to modify it, but I'm using this as like a stop because that's what I think. I think this is causing it to be forgotten or messed up. and then execute is wrong because it's saying that accessCheck was never called. So let's go ahead and debug it and see if that's true or not. Give it a second to boot up. Man, this takes a while. All right, so here we go. Method call is to accessCheck. All right, so let's look at these attributes. Line 13. Close it. Line 13. So this is it. It's where I expected it to be. Wait. Oh, this is broken. Oh, wait, no. That's right. We don't care if the accessCheck is true or false. It's just if it has it or not. So I guess we could have like, there could be a later desire to actually check. It's like 4 states. Like, was accessCheck flagged or not? Is accessCheck true or false? But that would be a silly rule. So, but this is the main thing here, is that we have with accessCheck, which is new static. So this query entity type, we have this cache description, which was without accessCheck, and now it should be with. I feel like this isn't granular enough. Class name, that's accessCheck, class deflection, query interface. So this sets it to true. If we step down, step over, we have our resolve type, which is now content entity query with accessCheck, which changes the cache, which we reset the cache description. Resolve types, let's step through, return type. The expression is variable, query. All right, so we're here. Type, so our type is still here. So the expression type is content entity query, accessCheck true, null. So this is the result. Okay, so that's the result. Expression result, scope. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be it. So now it should go to the next part. Okay, so we have condition. Now default return type is content entity query type accessCheck false. So here is the bug. Ah, I know why. Okay, so returns query. So accessCheck returns, but this does not reflect the mutation of original object. That's what it is. Son of a gun. So, to explain that revelation, let's go back to accessCheck. Yep. So let's just close everything to the right because that's not needed. So what this is saying is get type from method call. It says that it is the var type with accessCheck. This is the return value. That return value is discarded because it doesn't say query equals. If we did query equals, we'd get this one to pass. As you can see, we have 1 error now instead of 2. But it doesn't do assignment. It updates the state of the existing query object. And so that's like a side effect. And dynamic method return extension. We need to see if there's a like side effects API that says, oh, or like mutation of some sort that says this method actually modified properties of the existing type. And as far as I know, that does not exist. And you know what? I believe we actually have this documented. Rules, reflection, type. Accessible, entity query. Or not, I really thought we did, but I guess not. Entity storage. All these are changed. No, that's storage. Entity query. Oh, query execute. Yep, these are all chained. So of course they're going to work. Yeah. I thought we had tested documented it. So let's go to phpstan.org and see if there's anything we can do. I'm not sure, but let's go through the documentation. Developing extensions. Otherwise, we're going to have to dig into more of the code of phpstan and see how we can hack it in. Yeah, get return type. Yeah, because this is the return type method reflection. The scope type, var type. We got to replace the var type. This method called var, but at this point, it's probably forked off. So, all right. I'm going to make a note. We need to replace method call var with all without conditions the chaining, but yeah, without conditions. So the method is a mutation. Not just a return. All right, class reflection extensions can expose magic properties. Nope. Dynamic return type, dynamic throw type, type specifying. Based on type. Always read, always use, allow subtypes. Testing, always use, type specifying extensions. That's where I was at. Oh, these mean like PHP unit. Oh, saying that this method is going to assert a type like PHP unit using self assert not null. Now we know it's not null. Dynamic return type. Only PB. Yeah, I wish that was the case for Drupal. Conditional return types. Merge, scope, get type. Merge. What about something that has a side effect? All right, so we don't have that. Scope is an interface we're not guaranteed to have. a mutating scope. We could, but it's not guaranteed. So let's see. Git file is in trait. Git has resolve type by name, resolve name, get type by value. No. Let's just try this horrible hack. No, wait, not the var. Yes. Oh. Yeah. Let's just see how that horrible hack works. Nope. Because it's not the same difference. Oh. So let's go to the PHP stand queue. I don't even know how to begin searching for this. Side effect. Nope. That's gonna be no. Nothing's gonna be mute. Stop. Let's do chain. Let's return chain. How to analyze chain method calls. Type specifying extension for chain method calls. Let's see. I was using parent to analyze chain methods. Foo with bar. Var. That's not what we need. That was about inspecting chain calls. We need to find things that aren't. So if, all right, I'm a bit stuck. Currently I would have some API that did this. The string cannot be null, and the second throw if. Oh, this is different. Process expression node. Type specifier should be called and process expression node. Case. Well, it looks like this specific bug was fixed. That's not what we need. Return type for methods on a descendant class. Let's look at. It wouldn't even be chained methods. I don't know how to search for this. Unchained? No. Like it's a side effect. But I don't know if people are going to use that word. Non-chained? Yeah, I'm just trying to think about how people would describe this. So I'm going to try non-chained next. Dependent variables. No. Empty if no side effect on the object property. What's this? Side effects of a certain type. Code snippet. Not the same kind of side effect. It's going to be. That's not what I want. Nope. Generic types. All right. Well, that's not what I need. Let's go first look at extension. So dynamic return, throw, return, static. Function type specifying, generic type variable resolver. Where's the dependency injection? Here we go. So validate ignored errors, permanent found exception, extensions. Provider, so throw type, operator type. So it's not there. Let's look at non-chained. I forgot. I didn't go do that search. Non-chained. I mean, the good news is a lot of entity query access bugs will be fixed, but it'd be nice to do this one. Non-nullability on all chain elements. It was from way back. Oh, no, it's not. Yes, it is. It's from 0.9. So, it's time to dive in. I'm going to debug this and try to step through and see where I can get what I think I can do, because we need to mutate the scope somehow. We need to change the type. So we have this get type, but we need to change it. Hey there. Thanks for joining. All right, so we have this get type, and it would be great if there was a way to set the type, but it gets resolved. So actually, I'm going to rerun this, because something else will get the type, and maybe we can, if it busts the cache, it'll work. Be the key, maybe. I honestly don't know. And unfortunately, it's just taking longer and longer to get into the development. Okay, we got xdebug. All right, so var type. I want to step through this and see how it's actually getting it. So it takes the node, which is a variable. So it gets the node key, which the key is it prints the node. If it's functional, it returns the key because it's in its own scope. So everything gets like its own copy of the scope. So that's the other part. I don't know if changing this will fix it. So we got our key. Looks like this resolve types. Has it been resolved before? Sure has. So it steps over because it knows. So this resolve types. This is where the magic happens. So if we find the usage of it, value right, enter expression assigned. Yeah, it's like we need to reassign it, but that's not possible. And rather, this resolve types equals resolve types. Enter expression assigned. Oh, this isn't even it. This doesn't reset it. It just copies it over. And it creates another scope. Man. Expression assigned, exit, and then it pops it all back. All right. Well, that's not going to do what I was hoping, or not lead me to where I was hoping to be. So we get the type, it's cached inside the scope. So if we do this return, we get the resolve type. back inside the mutating scope, call method return type. Like, what if like methods have resolve type, mutating scope, resolve type from the expression string and the node. This is where I guess it's one of those, if you have weird, it's not a weird design paradigm to have a method change the state and it have different outcome. But I guess maybe it's just really a pain to do with static analysis. So I'm going to close this. Shoot, did not mean to close debug. All right, so we're here. We've got the resolve type. Yep, we get all the resolve types. That's great. So get null. Yep, because the type is here. So our type again is it has entity access. Great. We have our type. It relates them. The key was set. Yep. So now we're in final terminating of the expression. So expression type. Final early terminating. What does this do? If is method call. I'm going to I think that means if it find early terminating expression. So we're not an early terminating expression. That would be if like it's a return statement or never. So it returns null. That's the other hard part, is it's being processed and we don't know when it's being processed and being analyzed and like which part it is. So, all right, we've got the early terminating expression is null. Process the expression node. So it primed all the data. So statement expression is method call on query with the name access, and now the scope has a bunch of stuff cached. So it did that first work, but we look at the resolve types. This is all cached right here. The query, so this is the important thing. The query is described here without accessCheck, and then this one here, query, the resolve type, says it's true. We need it to somehow affect that cache or replace it. And maybe that can be done inside this result. So I'm going to go ahead and put some notes into the PR for where I've left off. Breaks down due to phpstan not tracking the side effect of calling accessCheck, which modifies the state of the query. Let's see, what line am I at? So we have that line there, and I'm actually going to take a screenshot, not of the entire thing, just that. So let's close. And upload, hopefully. Come on. There we go. Just fix it. There we go. All right, so query is in its initial state of not an access checked query. Initial state of not being flagged. What do we got here? But has itself considered as returning the query with access check, but this does not update the existing query resolved type because it's a side effect, not a return type. Okay. It's a good breakpoint because I know if I don't solve this, I'll forget about it the next time I look at it. So we're here, and what if, oh, forgot to add. Let's see what can be done and process the expression node. All right, so let's step into processing the expression node. And maybe there's something in here we can do that lets us modify the scope at all. Maybe. I didn't see it in the scope, but I'm hoping that wherever the heck we were, it works. So is call node callback with expression, node callback, closure. So if context is deep. Okay, so we're in here. So node callback. All right, holy cow. File analyzer, node. It's not an instance of a trait. Node type, method call. All right, so method call, get rules. Oh, this is going to run a... Okay, so this is going to execute all the rules, which means that it's already done the analysis, and this is too late because process statement node is when so process statement node is when all the rules get applied. There's rule errors, collected registry, file errors, dependencies, filter unknown, scope, file node. Ah, son of a gun. So this is too late to modify the types. Edit is too late. This runs the rules. Thoughts on this module? Let's take a little brain break. I'm gonna, well, not do it twice. Oh, yes. I have yet to look at it. I have your tweet. I have it in my to-doist, but I haven't had the spare time. But I am going to look at it. Museum term. Yeah. Because I know you said it's based off of the address module. So I'm actually going to shove that in my other window and get it open. I've had busy days at work that have left me a little blah. And I haven't really picked up many things in the afternoon. But I do want to look at that. So shoot. I'm going to go back and debug this. Form element, right. Yeah. So I'll look at the form element. I have that debugger kicking back off. Let's bring this back. Element. Just eyeball. So group ref text, separate item ref, map. Okay, so I see it is very much like, well, there's no dynamic. yeah, I'll look at it. It's the good old fun of Drupal elements and form embeds. All right, so debugger, we got the scope. Let's see, method call, get return type. Method call, I'm going to step backwards into this. So what calls this? It's like we want to resolve type, and resolve type, and resolve type. There's in 2 spots. This resolves the type. Let's find this usage. Get type. Okay, so it calls. Oh. No problem. Thanks for joining in. All right, so it calls this resolve type in here. Resolve late resolvable types. Late resolvable type resolve, late resolvable type. What are these? Offset key of type, conditional type. Let's see. Is resolvable. What does this mean? Contains template type, traverse. Let's see what resolve does. This result, this get result, conditional type. This target super of this subject. Value of type. This type, get iterable value type. I don't think this is going to solve it. Late resolvable type trait. Where do we get to this in? After it resolves the type. Oh, wait. Maybe. Hold on. This resolve, it returns a map. One second. I gotta see this. Type resolve use. It's true. It returns this map. New self map internal. It calls it back right away. Traverse internal, just traverse map eternal. So my thought was if there was some way to do if we could make it be a resolvable type, maybe we could fix it. Which is possible. Oh shoot, where was that? And node scope resolver. So node scope resolver. What was it? Type utils. Shoot. Where was it? Resolve late resolvable types. So it's here and get variable type. This expression's type, variable expression string. All right, I'm going to run this debugger again and see what we can do. So key of type implements compound type implements. Actually, let's see. Contains template type. let's screw it. Let's try it. Entity query type is going to implement late resolvable type. We're going to add the stubs. Is resolvable value of type contains template type. I don't know what that means. Key of type. So this has to do with like generics, and essentially that's what we're mimicking is generics. This subject construct. Well, this is because it's used. Just to say return true. And we're going to return this. I don't know. Let's debug it. I'm going to see what happens. Little background music might help. Yeah, that might help too. But I don't have rights to anything. I haven't bought music to do it. So I'm definitely a 3/4 in the door streamer. I was doing it weekly with a little bit more, but totally didn't take it to the next level. Because yeah, I should invest a little bit more in my streaming setup too. Although I know there is like some way to get royalty free or like really cheap background music, so I will add that to my list. All right. So the late resolvable types. We're at 557. We're gonna step through. So we got type utils, step in, resolve type. All right, we resolved the type. We're gonna step back in. We're not. So it would be hitting around here. And then it should go back to here. So now it's going to resolve. No. Where are we going to get into the late resolvable types? So if we step in, we get ourselves map eternal. It's going to call the callback and resolve it. So type is constant string type. Let's just hit play. I want to see when we breakpoint here inside of our entity query type. Okay, right here, right now. So this is false. Super types. No. Class reflection. We're inside disclosure. Yeah, so this runs at the same time. This doesn't run any later, so there's no way to type. And now the cache is set. So resolve types. Yep. Is false. So that's not a way to fix it. So I'm going to go and open a discussion and see if I can get some assistance. Just close that out to get a fresh start. Let's go discussions, new discussion, supports. Oh, I don't even know. Shoot, it's not even a return type. Or maybe it is. So tracking side effects and methods that are chainable. Couldn't think of a great title to summarize. This and this has to do with methods which have a return type extension or stub for a return type on chainable methods. No, with a return type extension, because it can't be a stub, chainable methods that return this, but statefully would modify the object state. Yeah. This has to do with methods that this has to do with analyzing methods that are chainable, return this, and return the same instance, but modify the state of the object and wanting to track those side effects. This is possible with dynamic return type extensions and chained method calls. However, the dynamic return type is useless if the methods are not chained, which is probably a design pattern thing. Like, this would be fixed. This would be fixed if Drupal didn't use accessCheck as a state, but instead returned like another object and forced chaining or reassignment. What does that call, like immutable? Like, if they would have made it an immutable, so that way every time you call a condition or something else, it returns a new version of the object, this would be solved. So it's a design decision. You gotta work around that. So let's see. For reference, this is for phpstan-drupal and determining if an entity query has been flagged, has had its accessCheck method called to set accessChecks on or off. This is a stateful flag within the query object. It works fine with chaining, but I'd like to try and support non-chained calls. Thank you, Grammarly, for fixing my word soup. And returning. All right. So works does not work. P. Network. There is no chaining, so query remains the same result, remains the same type from the Drupal entity query return type extension. Works because we'll do, whoa, I can't edit code right now. So this would work because it's reassigning itself. So I'll put it works because the assignment to query has accessCheck, which has a dynamic return type extension that uses an internal type to identify it as an entity query that has its accessCheck set. With this access checked, well, don't try to save that. Okay, so does not work. I have no idea. I tried looking and cannot. I don't even know if this is possible. Possible because it's stateful and the opposite of static analysis. I tried looking at, what was that? The late resolvable. Late resolvable type. But that resolves at the end of resolve type. Is there a way for a return type to also, is there a way for a method that is a void or returns self? Yeah, so that's it. It's we need a any method that returns a void or returns self to perform side effects on that internal phpstan type. And go for it. So if anybody's curious to follow along with this, I'll paste it into the chat. Every time I ask questions like this, I feel like I'm gonna get a why would you even do this or try or care? But it's worth always checking out. I'm into the discussion. I don't think this is possible because we cannot track side effects on objects from void. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go through. So let's see what other pull requests we have, and I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Before I was in it for about 2 hours, and it's coming up in an hour and 45. So let's see what else is remaining. Bunch of stuff that I should just go through. So nothing for here. I'm going to look at the issues that are open. Field item get entity can return null, not true. So let's check this out. Let's go for this one. Yeah, there's a lot. So let's see this. Oh, here we go. Can return null. So let's look here. Oh, is this patch? That might be the right thing. Yes, that would be the right patch. Which I'm really curious to see. Field item interface. entity. I'm more curious to see, oh, this get parent, get entity, and it loops for eternity. So what would field item base's parent be? Field item base would be field item list, because that's the parent that contains it. So if we looked at entity, this would be the parent is the type data object for the entity, which would be entity type data, the entity adapter. Entity adapter, yep. So it'd be entity adapter. Get value would be entity, which, yeah, could be null. Config entity adapter. So set value, this entity is entity, mix null, get property name. It should throw an exception though. So, oh wait, no, because get value just returns the entity without doing any checks. Oh, I'm this not empty. On change, if this is set entity, oh, that's, yep. But get entity here says that let's see. I'm going to just add some comments. Traversing through field item calls parent typed data object, which calls the field item list. The field item list calls its parent the entity, entity adapter typed data object. So everybody doesn't know, Drupal has its entities, which is its model, and then the underlying system for everything is a type data API. So this was like, think before everybody started to fall in love with PHP 8 and even like 7 with the types. It was a way to mimic types and give like methods and attributes to them. And that's like the core of everything inside Drupal for data representation. The data type has a bunch of checks for null, but also warnings if the value is null. I'm curious what path leads to there being a null entity on a field item or field item list. That means the typed data objects were somehow instantiated outside of an entity context. So we could do this, but it seems that it shouldn't happen, but just because it shouldn't happen doesn't mean that it won't. Because create from entity, I guess like it could happen if somebody constructed it. Here, where's, oh, searching for that's not gonna work. Or maybe let's do create instance. Oh, I'm not in a full Drupal site, so let's do in core. It's like it'd be plugin manager, entity exists. It's like here, it's not even constructing itself that way. All usages should be done here, but it's not. So actually, I don't even know. Entity data definition, create instance, new static definition. Oh. New instance creation. Yeah, that's get definition. Oh, yeah, it's this expects this any. All right, yeah, that'd be a rabbit hole to go down. So I'm more curious about how we got there before working on it. Static calls an enum method. So this should work. Here, let's check this out. This would be a good fix because hopefully more people are using enums as they are working with PHP 8. So if we git checkout main pull, let's make a new branch for it. Get new branch. GitHub 500. So where is this? Global dependency injection rule is static. If scope function is what they found. Scope class reflection. Oh, geez. Allow this. Oh, here we go. So if is in trait, what about scope enum is in class or is in trait? That's right. Enums are technically a class. So it's enum. What about this is backed enum? So this reflection is enum is backed is backed. So we need to check both. Is if this reflection is enum, or maybe not, is enum. Yeah, that should be fine. Specific, yeah, that should be okay. So if enums cannot have dependency injection. Why is this saying it's nullable? All right. So there we go. That's that. But now we want tests, and look at that. We've got a test we can do. So now we'll write a test. So rules, data, let's make a new one called bug 500.php. And we're going to just copy this. Namespace, bug 500. Enum. What's it complaining about? Why is it? Since 8.1. All right, so I gotta make sure this doesn't run until this only runs on PHP 8.1. So if we do Drupal static, here we go. So I think we can do a. I don't have this in here. Oh, here we go. Let's go to PHP source and go to test and do PHP version ID. So we're going to use the test to check. There you go. Perfect. Here we go. This is the exact one because it does it for enum as well. So here we go. Yield gather assert types. So we're going to do a So if the PHP version ID is greater than 8.1, yield data bug 500. And there should be no errors. So I did this backwards. I should have first ran the test with the failure and then fix this. So let's go ahead and comment that out. PHP 8.1 is running. So let's run this test. Oh, this breaks the detection. Let's run it. It should run, or it should not get unset. So that the two strings are identical. So it goes, it says there's an error on one on those two lines. And if we add the return, it should return empty. Have updated comment on 501. Awesome. Thank you. There we go. That passed. So let's push this up. Get status. So that is one nice thing. If you do hit bugs with like phpstan you don't get, provide some sample code. We can plug it in as a test fixture and run for it. I'm going to give one aside before I get ready to sign off. So let's do git status, git commit AV, allow Drupal static and enums. Fixes, what is this issue? Number 500. Should know I made it my branch. Origin, yeah, 500. GitHub PR create. And submit. So this should update. I said it'd be fixed by. Speaking of the custom code, how phpstan has its playground, I think I'm going to build one of these for phpstan-drupal. So it gives you a way of running phpstan the same way, but against a Drupal site. So you run code and it will run it like it's a custom module. It should be possible because it's a Lambda function. And if you've seen this Drupal mrn.dev I built, it's a Lambda function as well, which I actually did was all inspired by phpstan's bot, which is a Lambda function itself. So like if you go to not source, because it's in the main one. So like playground, API, runner, these are all ignore errors. No, that's it. It's the API. One of these. No, yep, that's the API. The runner. This goes through and runs the code for you. This is what's running the code and returns the output. I think I'm going to build the same thing for Drupal code, so that way people could copy this sample or wherever it went. Yeah, so that way they could copy in this code, run it against the Drupal site with specific options, and then get the results back and maybe add some more of the goodies that phpstan has. So if you submit a playground URL, it will automatically update the results as new versions of phpstan come out. It's just that requires a lot of time, and I do this all in my free time. So if I had all the time in the world, I'd do it, but it's still on my I'd love to do list. It's just not always feasible. All right, so waiting for this to finish. And let's go look. I'm going to look back at 501 then. Got a valid field object. Trying to account for the valid possibility there be no entity return. Okay. I guess the thing to be, I'd be really, so while it's theoretically possible that the entity could be null, it's feasibly not, because somebody would have to, there's so many things that would break. And I would know it would break because I've tried this before. So if we looked at field and we went to field manager, oh no, where's it gonna go? Where is it? Data type data. Nope. Field type plugin manager. So the field type, create instance, this data definition, this create item configuration, create field item list. So because technically there is create instance, but the entity itself would be calling, or something would be calling create field item list with the entity, and that would populate the values. And same with create field item, and then when it goes into here, the items, that's the parent. So this is parent, name, values, name, values. And whenever entities construct their values, it's being passed to this plugin manager. Now, something could call create instance directly, and then it wouldn't have the value, but they should always be passed through create property instance. So that could be the difference, is somebody creates an instance but not a property instance. And the one reason I'm concerned about just adding this into the package is that it could force everybody to start adding null checks when it might not necessarily be possible. So I get property instance here, object, get root, get data definition, the root definition. And then here you can see set context, which set context should set the parent. So that's what sets the parent. So there are ways that this could break down, but I'm having a hard time seeing it. Yeah, within type data, correct. If I see. So yes, within type data, it technically allows returning null, but with the way that it works, it should never return. I guess I'd like to see an instance where it actually is happening. Because yeah, it's all right here. You create instance, that's the type data, boom. This has no parent associated with it. This just has a data definition. You know, here, if it called create, this allows passing a parent. So there are ways that it could be, you could have it. It depends on the context. So if you could include code, like example of code of what might be setting it or where it could be. Yeah, I'm not closing it. I want to look at it. It's just altering these stubs has bigger effects. All right, so this passed. I'm going to merge it and do a release and then sign off. What am I looking for here? So releases, oh, did one in December, which included a bunch of fixes. Themes to account for was that an entity reference field. Yeah, get entity. So get entity is always the owner of the field. For instance of entity reference, so I've done this too. It is not the referenced entity. So node get my ref field, my ref. I'll just detour this real quick. Get entity. returns node. We'll go down this. Get 0. So in this case, so this field item list get entity returns the node. Oh, it hit an ad break. Oh, what a time to do that. Darn. Okay, well, I'm gonna wait for a second then. So actually, I don't know. I'm recording this now. Okay, because I record it and upload it to YouTube, and I actually don't know what happens to the audio during an ad break on Twitch. So here, node get ref. So this returns the field item list. Get entity would return node. Get the field item list, get the first field item, get entity returns node. And if we do it one more time, if we were to do get 0, so get the first, get, let's just do entity, let's do the magical fields. So then it would return the reference entity. So inside the field system, inside type data for anything that's like fields, get entity returns the parent, which is the entity object. And the only way this would be broken is if somebody constructed those type data outside the context of an entity. So somebody would have had to write very specific code that has assumptions and breaks in it. All right, I'm going to draft a new release. Correct. So the entity, because this is the entity is a property on entity reference item. So entity is a computed property here. If I can get to the main property name, property definitions, where are you? On change. Oh, here it is. Oh, that's right. It's just more convoluted because it supports different ones. So it's right here. Entity is a property, a dynamic property on the type data itself because that is the reference. Get entity inside fields always return to the parent, which would be a lot more clear if possibly like really think of this get entity as get parent is essentially what it's calling. But the idea is that way when you're in the field item, you don't need to say get parent. It's just get entity for each one. Let's take a new tag. So 0.27 release. You're not alone. I've hit that plenty of times, or I did before, because it's been a while, but definitely hit that a lot. Let's update. I'm going to modify this so people. All right, set it as latest release, create a discussion, publish, and boom. All right, thanks for hanging out. It felt good to be back doing live streams. I'm going to try to get this back in my weekly schedule. So I was doing weeklies, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for about 2 hours. Yeah, I'm gonna get that back on. I still have my note. I'd like to do one that's not just maintenance of phpstan-drupal, but that does a demo of using Copilot and ChatGPT on the same one and comparing doing the same tasks and ways that I'd use it. For anybody that missed that earlier discussion, I was just thinking like Copilot sounds great if I'm doing like grunt repetitive work. It would be great for like junior and like mid-level developers. And ChatGPT is great for like senior staff principal because you can start just talking with an AI bot about principles and concepts and drafting code that way. So it'd be really interesting because they're backed by the same engine or same service, just GPT-3. And I believe I remember somebody showing that you can just make code comments and have Copilot scaffold code for you. So it's a blend of what I've been doing with ChatGPT. So thanks for hanging out and have a good one, and I'll see you next week.